I was going to, for today's video, cover the subject of the orangutan in the brothel in Borneo, but I might save that for later on in the week, because I think there's a lot more to it and quite a bit of history I would like to talk about. Also, I like ads on my videos, because I like Google's money, because it just about buys me a Snickers bar, when they pay you on time. Instead, we're going to talk about the MeToo movement and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and how they are somewhat linked in something that has happened to Neil deGrasse Tyson, but also what has happened to the MeToo movement recently, and I think I should cover that first, because the founder of the MeToo movement, or the campaign to support survivors of sexual violence, Tarana Burke, has said the campaign she started against sexual violence has become unrecognisable and misrepresented as a vindictive plot against men. She started the campaign, for those who don't know, in 2006, with the original goal was to provide support of survivors of sexual violence in her community. Now, because of the phrase taking off globally in the wake of allegations against Harvey Weinstein, this has been co-opted and given additional promotion, which has inevitably led to it becoming a moral crusade, with no evidence being presented. This is important. Accusations made careers ruin on accusation alone, which, as many of us can agree, the journalists, the public, are not the arbiters of truth here. That is the job of investigators. And then, of course, the justice system, should it go to trial. But that doesn't matter, does it? No citation needed, when morals are more important. She was also quoted as saying, "Suddenly a movement to centre survivors of sexual violence is being talked about as a vindictive plot against men. This is a movement about the 1 in 4 girls and the 1 in 6 boys who are sexually abused every year, and who carry those wounds into adulthood. Victims are heard and then vilified." The 1 in 4 thing again, huh? Glad you're acknowledging that boys are also victims of sexual abuse, but those statistics though. Now this is all relevant because of Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was recently in the news, and he even put a blog up on Facebook about it. Now it is titled, "On Being Accused." By the way, Neil deGrasse Tyson, you may be revered by a number of people, but I still haven't forgiven you for Pluto, so fuck you. For a variety of reasons, most justified, some unjustified, men accused of sexual impropriety in today's MeToo climate are presumed to be guilty by the court of public opinion. Emotions bypass due process, people choose sides, and the social media wars begin, which is why, when it comes to accusations of sexual impropriety, as you put it, the moment the accusation is made to the police, it should not be made public knowledge who the person was until it has gone through the entire justice system, as in either guilty, not guilty, has been declared, and if a no guilty verdict is given, then the person accused has a right to either make it public or not. The person who accused does not have the right to make it public. When you take it upon yourself to share a story, regardless of whether it is truth or not, and this has not gone to the police, or it has and they've decided not to believe you, so you feel the need to share it anyway, you are deciding whether someone else's life, career, basically their existence, is worth having or not. Take the accusations against Kevin Spacey. All we have to go on is a story, and look what happened to Kevin Spacey's career. Granted, the guy's worth over 120 million, so if he actually cares, well, I doubt you'll see it on his face anytime soon. It may take a while for his career to ever regain any semblance of splendour. He'll never be forgiven. But it is not up to the journalists, or those on Twitter jumping on a bandwagon, to decide whether or not his accuser is right, and that should apply to everyone. If you're a vindictive person, and you feel the need to share these kind of stories, you are setting yourself up to be a victim, potentially lying at the same time, because we don't know if you're telling the truth. You haven't allowed this to go through proper channels. Now yes, there have been a lot of instances where corruption has existed in criminal justice, but we have gotten better. We really have. And I don't mean this in the case of Kevin Spacey, I mean in all cases of sexual impropriety. It should always go through proper channels first. It should never be something where you say, for example, and I'm going to introduce a little reductio ad absurdum, irate bear sexually abused me. Now that I have said that, it must be totally believed, right? So you should all, in an indignant fashion, go to Twitter. Do people still use Twitter? Go to Twitter and Rah, rah, rabble, rabble, rabble. You know the deal. I lose interest when people start to act like children.
You did that. There's no proof of it, but you did that.
I've gotten off topic. Neil deGrasse Tyson is quite right. Emotions bypassing due process. The problem is, in a number of these cases though, and I do want to correct him on this a little. Okay, everything before was right, except for this little bit here. Emotions are bypassing due process, however, no due process has actually taken place. In the court of public opinion, those standards don't apply. In any claim, evidence matters. Evidence always matters. Ah, thinking like a scientist. Rookie mistake, you filthy casual. Such a boomer. But what happens when it's just one person's word against another's, and the stories don't agree? Then it comes down to the oppression Olympics. Who is the more marginalised? We will then reserve our resources for that person, and get all rabble with the person less oppressed. That's when people tend to pass judgment on who is more credible than whom, and that's when an impartial investigation can best serve the truth, and would have my full cooperation to do so, or one can hope in the accusations presented against you that it in fact happen. But as we all know, the accusations were already out there. I have stated this in many videos I have done on sexual impropriety. Let's go with that. I like the tenor phrase, it's actually quite nice. Not only is the person presumed the accused, presumed innocent until proven guilty, but they should remain anonymous until a verdict is given, or post-verdict if found not guilty. I would also like to make it clear that when people have lied, and they're proven to have lied about a case like that, yeah, then throw the book at that person, because we don't seem to do that enough in our country. And this MeToo stuff, granted it has been appropriated from an original movement that actually served a purpose, but to all those who are lying, I'd like to see if they're actually telling the truth or not, and then have the books thrown at them to see their particular version of MeToo blow up in their faces, so that the real MeToo movement can do its damn job and help those who are actual victims, as opposed to the wannabes. I've recently been publicly accused of sexual misconduct. Well, your career's over then. These accusations have received a fair amount of press. They will. You're a public figure. People haven't forgiven you for Pluto yet. Oh, and of course because of your particular pigment to your skin, unaccompanied by my reactions. When put in the position of being publicly accused of something, I don't truly know how you are supposed to react in any way that could help you and create what many would consider to be good optics. In many cases, it's not the media's fault. Of course not. Their purpose is to sensationalize to get people to read what they put out. In some cases, do it so much so that people will be willing to donate $1, maybe $10 a month to subscribe to their site for more sensationalist, intellectually dishonest drivel. I declined comment on the grounds that serious accusations should not be adjudicated in the press. You are quite right. You also run the risk when this does go to court, if this has been very public, that a number of charges will be thrown out because you can't get a decent jury in who's impartial, or because the evidence could be considered pampered, messed with. Let's go with what's it. But clearly I cannot continue to stay silent. So below I offer my account of each accusation. The first was an incident in 2009, the second in 2018. The first incident is supposedly him having touched somebody inappropriately while looking for a tattoo of Pluto on someone's shoulder. However, as he'd been involved in the demotion of it 3 years earlier, he didn't recall doing this. He was since accused of groping her by searching up her dress. If that were true, then of course he'd be down by her knees as opposed to up by her shoulder. The second incident was where somebody felt uncomfortable when he had made a wine and cheese evening, and she considered it an attempt to seduce her, but he did in fact apologise, and she had accepted it as well. So how on earth these have been blown out of proportion is a mystery, unless of course the whammons in question want to make a few bucks. I'm not saying it because women are vindictive, I'm saying it because we like money. We all like money, even Cthulhu kinnies like me. The overview and the conclusion of all this. I'm the accused, so why believe anything I say? Why believe me at all? They shouldn't, you filthy shyster. Go to prison. That brings us back to the value of an independent investigation, which Fox and National Geographic announced that they will conduct. I welcome this, and I hope, once it is concluded, Chris Hansen approaches you, smacks you on the face, maybe says you're innocent. Depending on how the investigation goes, of course. Accusations can damage a reputation and a marriage. They can. They can destroy lives. There is a stigma around it, and yet some people still do it. knowing the damage they will cause, without a single shred of proof. I do get that some people go through horrific experiences, and they don't want to speak up then, so they wait for a long time. I'm not saying you're not telling the truth. I'm saying all we have to go on is your word. Unless you are clever and retain some information that could conclusively prove someone did something to you, you are going to be hard-pressed to get something out of it. Some conclusion that makes you feel peace once again. I'm grateful for the support I've received from those who continue to respect and value my work. So no one then, you Pluto destroyer, you, I will never forgive you for that. A number of the comments in this mention how women have become so fucking weak and how flirtation is not sexual assault. Others, for a laugh, saying Republicans are trying to discredit science. But one of them hit the nail on the head. As a MeToo supporter, I am so sickened by the manhunt these accusations have become. I tend to think that it diminishes what actual victims of rape have gone through. It's when people peddle rape culture, or they peddle the idea, let's go with the best one actually, Title IX. I've spoken about it a number of times on this channel. It was weakened by the Obama Dear Colleague letter, to the point where it had to be redone. To the point where the Obama's Dear Colleague letter had to be thrown away, just to save some semblance of integrity, because it had been given the lowest common denominator to prosecute people for alleged crimes of sexual misconduct, which many universities lost out on financially when they were inevitably sued for the dogshit moral crusades. Cough cough Solkowitz, cough cough. Anyway, if you are at all interested in me covering the orangutan thing, then I will. I've got to work on a collaboration with Direwolf first. But if you do, let me know in the comments below. So I hope you all have a lovely Monday, and thank you all for listening.